on me. I'm just a helpless woman.
Thanks to Brilliant.org for sponsoring this video. What if Season 2, Episode 7 gave us a whole new take on the goddess of death, daughter of Odin, sister of Thor, Hela?
Oh, I've missed this.
So we need to break down all the Easter eggs, references, and the little things you might have missed. So as the episode opens, we hear mention of how Odin and Hela brought peace to the 9 realms, something we had a closer look at in Thor Ragnarok when we learned that Odin's methods of bringing peace was far from peaceful, and that his empire of harmony was built on blood. We also got a shot of this mural that we saw in Ragnarok that featured Hela at Odin's side, but in Ragnarok we saw that mural had been covered up after her banishment.
Proud to have it. Shamed of how he got it.
You see, in the main MCU, Odin banished Hela to Hell for her refusal to accept that their killing days were over. This episode gave us our first look at how that altercation between Hela and Odin went down, and it was very similar to how Thor and Odin's altercation went down in the first Thor movie, when Odin banished Thor to Earth and stripped him of his power. It even took place in the same room. This alternate universe where Odin sent Hela to Earth instead of Hell mirrored that first Thor film even more so by having Odin utter the same lines to Hela that he did to Thor.
I now take from you your power! I now take from you your power! In the name of my father and his father before! Name of my father and his father before! I cast you out! Cast you out!
Here we can see Hela holding Mjolnir, which, remember, belonged to Hela before it did Thor. And in that mural I mentioned a second ago, we can see her wielding the hammer, the same as we did in the Ragnarok mural. We then see Hela throw the hammer at Odin, and he catches it just like she caught it when Thor threw it at her in Ragnarok. He then proceeds to break the hammer just like Hela did in Ragnarok as well. We then see Odin take Hela's crown just like he took Thor's hammer, and he whispers to the crown the same command that he did to Mjolnir.
Whosoever wears this crown, should she know mercy, shall possess the power of Hela.
Whosoever holds this hammer, if he be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor.
And then, like Thor, we see Hela cast out of Asgard to Earth. So we see Hela's crown crash land on Earth and leave a crater in the ground just like Thor's hammer did, which we first saw in the post-credit scene of Iron Man 2.
We found it.
Now, to really understand how the multiverse works, you have to have a working knowledge of probability field theory, which I luckily do.
Hey, how'd you learn about the the math stuff?
Well, because I spend 15 minutes a day doing math and science lessons to sharpen my brain with Brilliant, the sponsor of this video. Brilliant is great for understanding big things like hurricanes or regular household items like how a toilet works.
Don't even get me started. Special chairs, and everybody uses the same chair? Blech.
Brilliant is a great way to challenge myself to learn something new every day, like science, computer science, or math. I was a terrible math and science student in high school, maybe you were too, and I felt like as an adult I would never have the chance to learn those subjects, but Brilliant is great for understanding the world around us. Learning math is challenging, but if I can learn math, I can learn anything, and learning is a lifelong skill. You see, with Brilliant you learn how to think. Brilliant uses these fun lessons that make them a fun part of my morning routine. I mean, to learn anything, you've got to do it. Interactive learning is proven to be 6 times more effective than passive learning, like just watching videos. These are fun, short lessons that are built for busy people. I especially love logic problems and nonlinear thinking puzzles. And they're built more like games than classroom lessons. You see, you're not just memorizing formulas or equations. Brilliant builds your intuition. So when you see a problem, you have the tools to solve it for yourself. With Brilliant, you learn how to think better. So to try everything Brilliant has to offer free for a full 30 days and get a 20% annual plan, visit brilliant.org/ScreenCrush or click the link in the description below. The first 200 of you will get 20% off Brilliant's annual premium subscription. Now, back to what I was saying. And then enters Wenwu, aka the Mandarin.
My name's Trevor Slattery.
No, not that Mandarin, the real Mandarin. Shang-Chi's father and master of the 10 Rings. 10 Rings being the same group that kidnapped Tony Stark in the first Iron Man. That name comes from the 10 cosmic rings that Wenwu wears on his arms. Wenwu looks just like he did in this opening flashback scene from Shang-Chi. We then hear the Watcher say,
"The most powerful forces on Earth often come from beyond.
And that's true, Earth has become a hotspot in the MCU for a lot of supernatural artifacts, but they almost never originated on Earth. Take the Infinity Stones, for example.
If you pick the right year, there are 3 stones in New York.
So when Hela arrives to reclaim her crown, it's pouring down rain, recreating the same imagery of where Thor arrived at the shield base to reclaim his hammer in his first movie. When Hela goes to use her crown, she says,
That usually gets a bigger reaction.
This is in reference to Loki's line in the first Avengers movie when his scepter doesn't work on Tony Stark.
This usually works.
Hela attempts to lift the hammer again and then lets out a big scream in the rain, just like this scene from Thor. Winwu takes a liking to Hela, and who can blame him? It is Cate Blanchett after all. And then we get the return of Morris.
What, are you saying you know a way to get out of here?
We first met Morris in Shang-Chi. He's a creature from Chinese myth called a Hundun. I hope I'm saying that right. And we even got a call back to Morris being sensitive about his lack of a face.
Where's his face?
He's a bit sensitive about that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that your... Sorry, I was under the impression I was talking to your face.
Like in Shang-Chi, we see Morris help guide Hela to THOR, just like he did for Shang. THOR is an alternate dimension that can be accessed via a portal on Earth that is protected by a moving maze of trees.
What happens if we don't stay in the pocket? The forest eats us.
In Shang-Chi, we got this awesome car chase scene in that forest, but in this episode of What If, we got to see Hela recreate that scene on horseback. Here we meet Jaya, who we can see performing what is essentially airbending, like we have seen many times in the Shang-Chi film amongst the people of THOR. She is also dressed in identical clothing to Ying Li, Shang-Chi's mother, at the beginning of that movie, with the green dress, the hat, and the mask. And guys, by the way, I know Christmas just happened, but if you are interested in checking out our merch store, we've got lots of great stuff up on our store right now, and it is a great way to support the channel. So if you're interested in picking up any of our comic book movie or sci-fi movie inspired merch, go to ScreenCrushMerch.com. So when we cut to Heimdall back at Asgard, we hear him say that Hela is no longer in his sight. Remember that Heimdall has the ability to observe all 9 realms from his post at Asgard. But once Hela entered THOR, he was no longer able to see her. I suppose that's because despite THOR being on Earth, it exists within a realm outside of Earth and therefore is not one of the 9 realms. Now, how that works in terms of multiverse logic and whatever the rules are in the MCU, I don't know, because Marvel hasn't been super clear on what the difference is between dimensions and universes and how that all works with the multiverse. Anyway, when Hela wakes up in THOR, she sees the flaming birds that I believe are called Fingguans. I'm probably saying that wrong, I'm sorry. So when Hela is complaining about her state of affairs, we hear her mention Odin's new girlfriend, Frigga, aka Thor and Loki's mother.
Also, my dad has this new girlfriend, Frigga. She's a dreadful woman.
And our post-production supervisor, Harriet, pointed out that Hela's mention of Frigga being a new girlfriend could be highlighting the fact that Frigga is the one who made Odin change his barbaric ways. Now, we knew that Hela and Loki weren't blood related, but now we have confirmation that Thor and Hela are only half siblings. And then we get to see the dragon known as the Great Protector from the final battle in Shang-Chi, and I love the look of respect on Hela's face for that veiled threat, because she too has a passion for giant creatures that can eat people.
I've missed you.
So when Odin learns that Hela is no longer detectable by Heimdall, he fears what great power could be shielding their view. He then utters this line.
And our age of peace might be short-lived.
Showing us that while Odin may claim to be a seeker of peace, he is willing to perform great violence to make sure he is in charge of that peace, no matter what the cost. Once again, shining light on the irony that he created Hela to be what she is, and then he shames her when she can't change at the drop of a hat. As Hela begins her training, just like Shang-Chi did in his film, she not only discovers that she is physically capable of more than just her Odin-bestowed powers, but she also has the ability to think on her own and choose her own destiny in life, a great theme for a show about the multiverse and endless possibilities.
Finding infinite possibility in the blankest of canvases.
For all her life, Hela was told who and what she would be. It was never her own choice, a theme shared by all of the Odin spawn. Loki felt destined to be a god of mischief, and we saw him break from that path in the season 2 finale of his own show. At the end of Avengers Endgame, we saw Thor break from his feeling of a destined path to rule Asgard.
It's time for me to be who I am rather than who I'm supposed to be.
Odin made Hela who she is. He says as much here that her purpose is destruction, when comparing her path to that of her own wolf, Fenris.
He means you no harm.
Not yet. but in time, he is born with the heart of a fighter, just like his mistress.
This scene reminded me of another Odin daughter, Sylvie, who was told by the TVA at a young age, just like Hela was there, that she couldn't be what she wanted to be, and she was then forced down a path of predetermined destiny, which again is the perfect theme for a show about the multiverse and a saga about the multiverse. So like Loki, Thor, and Sylvie, this What If episode showed us Hela finally breaking free and being who she wanted to be, and that person isn't an evil tyrant. So when Odin arrives on Earth to confront Hela, he tries to take the 10 rings. This is in reference to the many powerful artifacts that can be found in Odin's trophy room. We see her don this red dress, similar to the red dresses we saw here in Shang-Chi. And guys, I've been saying for a while now, look, I love the character of Odin, and I love Anthony Hopkins' portrayal of the character, but let's be clear, he's got a checkered as past. This man was a conqueror who murdered many people. And yeah, he mellowed out in his old age, but this man was no saint. And this episode actually showed us that side of Odin, which was really cool to see. I mean, what did he do when he felt threatened by the fact that he could no longer spy on and control Hela? What did he do when he found out that there might be a power in the galaxy he had yet to make his own? He loaded up and went to Earth, ready to kill a lot of people. Odin was responsible for the evil and the darkness that had stained Hela and made her the villain we know. And when we see Hela become worthy of her crown again, we see her transformed into Hela the White. And that white costume symbolizes the stain and the sin placed on her by Odin's manipulation, now washed away, and she is getting to become her true self. And here we also got a name drop of Odin's spear, Gungnir.
We need to separate him from Gungnir.
Now, this weapon goes beyond the pages of the Marvel Comics and can often be found in Odin's grasp in many visual depictions of the Norse god.
Yeah, it's kind of my thing.
So as this episode closes, we cut to the planet of Zen-Hubri, the home planet of Gamora, daughter of Thanos. But of course we know that Gamora is actually Thanos' adopted daughter. In Avengers Infinity War, we saw a flashback to when Gamora was a child and when Thanos conquered her planet. In that scene, he kneels down and presents to her this two-sided knife.
Perfectly balanced, as all things should be.
Thanos and Gamora's relationship is almost identical to the dynamic between Hela and Odin, a strong-willed, tyrannical conqueror of a father hijacking the childhood of their daughter and turning them into something that they didn't want to be. In the mainline MCU, Gamora was fortunate enough to be able to break from Thanos, but there are likely other universes where Gamora suffered the same fate as Hela, stayed loyal to her father because he had pushed her too far, and then ended up being betrayed by her father after dedicating her life to him. So I really love that in this universe, a redeemed Hela is getting to save Gamora from ever even falling under the thumb of Thanos. And when we heard that specific word used, conquerors, to describe people like Odin and Thanos, it made me wonder if this may also be a little hint that Hela is eventually going to go toe-to-toe with Kang the Conqueror. I know this whole situation with Jonathan Majors, it's making it to where it's very unlikely that we're ever going to see that character again, but an animated take on the character and What If would be the perfect place to perhaps bring Kang back into play. Now, before we go, I just wanted to take a moment to say how much I enjoyed getting to see more Hela.
I love her. I love her.
Cate Blanchett's portrayal of the character was so good in Thor Ragnarok, and I don't believe for a second that she's actually dead. So I'd really like to see her return, put her in the multiverse saga of the MCU, and maybe even bring her in as Hela the White like we saw in this episode. So there are all the Easter eggs I caught for Season 2, Episode 7 of What If. Let me know if I missed any down in the comments below, and if you're new here, be sure to subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Colton Ogburn.